Am I the a-hole for kicking my ex out of my house right before Christmas and suing her? My ex and I divorced about 15 years ago, and we have shared custody of our daughter. In the divorce, she wanted the house, but I fought hard against it because it's been my family home for 3 generations before I inherited it. In the end, we came to a compromise that was signed off by the judge. Basically, she gets to live in the house rent-free until our daughter turns 18, then I get it back. I had to pay the utilities, maintenance, and property taxes the entire time. In addition, she can't make any modification or upgrades to the house without my written permission. She is solely responsible for the cost, and work has to be performed by an insured and legally licensed professional. I've been sending her move-out notices for months in anticipation of my daughter's 18th birthday, and recently that came to pass. The day after, I showed up to the house with a contractor because I wanted some work done before I moved back in. At first, she refused to let me in until I reminded her that I'm the legal owner of the house. According to our divorce agreement signed by the judge, she's no longer allowed to be there, and I'll call the police if she doesn't let me in. She got a point and opened the door. I was surprised nothing was packed, and it didn't seem like she's moving at all. We were arguing as I walked through and inspected my house. She wanted extra time, and I told her to be out by the end of the week, or I'll have her stuff thrown out. When I walked into the living room, I was shocked into silence. The living room was expanded by a wall being torn down and having the bedroom that was once there merged into it. She turned my 4-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom one. I know I didn't sign off on this, and from the looks of it, the work was probably done by her boyfriend and not a professional. I yelled at her and told her I'm going to sue her for everything she has. Then I left. She went crying to our daughter and my family. Now everyone is telling me to give her another month to find a place and not sue her. My daughter is firmly on her mother's side and thinks I'm the a-hole for kicking her mother out a couple of weeks before Christmas and suing her. This is why I'm here. I think I'm right, and legally I am right, but my daughter's opinion of me matters to me. Am I the a-hole? Edit to answer common questions. My daughter is a freshman in college, and I rent her an apartment near campus where she lives by herself. She has a room in my house, and I assume will have a room wherever her mother lives. 2. My ex fought for the house and had a chance of winning, even though we had shared custody because I make much more than her. I offered her to compromise, and she took it because her attorney told her it was a good deal, and there's an equal chance I could win, which would leave her without a house. 3. My relationship with my daughter is good. She didn't tell me about the renovation, because early on I told her I don't want to talk or hear anything about her mother, unless it's something that's affecting our daughter negatively. My ex was dead to me, and I wanted to spend time with my daughter building new memories. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The rules for this arrangement could not be more clear. Let's not even talk about the removal of a wall. It can actually cause structural problems. I would get a structural engineering inspection on the entire property to make sure the lawsuit includes everything. And goddamn was the judge unfair. Why the heck is she allowed to live there in the house rent-free for 15 years? Why? Just because she gave birth to a kid she gets a home for free? Not the a-hole. Christmas is a day. She intentionally messed up the value of your house without your consent, against the judge's orders. Sue her. Not the a-hole. She has known for 15 years that when your daughter turned 18, she was to move. Her lack of planning is on her. It's absolutely ridiculous that she didn't have a plan to be out by the daughter's birthday. Exactly this. She didn't bother planning ahead because she thought Opie wouldn't go through with it because of their daughter. And now she's using the daughter to manipulate him and keep on living on his expense. Not the a-hole, Opie. You should talk to your daughter and explain your side of things, especially if your ex has been filling her head with lies or has been putting her against you. Because why would she hide or not mention the renovations otherwise? Maybe wait until after the holidays, but definitely sue her and kick her out. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I, 27 female, didn't give my friend, 31 female, who's going through a divorce, the keys to my house while I'm on holiday? My friend Anne and I are co-workers and almost neighbors. She lives only 10 minutes away from me. For context, I moved where I am now living alone after I ran away from my horrible ex. It took me months to find an apartment, and I left when he wasn't home. Anna decided to divorce her husband. He's a nice guy, that's what she's saying, but she says they are too different. She started sleeping around and he doesn't know, before handing him the divorce papers. But as far as she is saying, they stopped talking weeks ago. They're still living together until March, but she obviously wants to move away ASAP. I asked her if he is acting okay towards her, if he's not hurting or harming her, and she said yes, but he is very hurt. Since I'm in my home country over the holidays and probably even longer, working remotely there, she hinted at my giving her a key to my flat so she can get away from him. She said she would pay anything to do that. To be fair, I don't want someone with a dog to live in my flat while I'm away and bring over guys to my bed. Anna's clean, reliable, and I would absolutely host her if her ex-husband became dangerous or while I'm not away, though I have one room. On the other hand, I wish I had someone to offer me their flat when I was desperately searching for one to get away from my ex, but I was new in the country and didn't know anyone. Would I be the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your friend does not appear to need a safe space to get away from him. She just wants a place to bring her hookups to. The last thing you need is a bunch of people knowing where you live and showing up there looking for hookups from another woman. New fear unlocked. Her husband might also become angry with you if/when he finds out about her infidelity, because in his eyes, you'd have been giving her access to your flat so she could hook up with people. It would put you squarely in the middle of their situation. Put simply, Anna has no respect for her husband, the man she married and is supposed to love. Do you think she'll respect you and your space? She is a grown woman. She can find a place to live that doesn't involve her having complete strangers in your home. Outside of the risk to you, what if they steal your things? Trash your flat? Do you really want to roll the dice on that? Not the a-hole. Make sure Anna doesn't have any access to your flat. Not the a-hole. Don't do it. When you get back, getting her out may not be easy and end up ruining your friendship. Tell her that you value your friendship too much to risk it this way. She will have something for herself in March. I wouldn't worry about it, but good point otherwise. Not the a-hole. Helping someone leave a dangerous situation is entirely different than wanting to leave your husband because you're done being married. That's the one and only thing I'm afraid of, that her ex is dangerous and she hides it from us. I didn't cheat on my ex, but when he became violent, I didn't tell anyone until much later. Even today, no one knows all the details. I was afraid he would find out I told everyone because we were still living together. Not your issue. The best case scenario is that you come home to a pad smelling of sex. The worst case scenario is she will stay there until March and force you to evict her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for asking my cousin for the wedding gift back after she said I wasn't welcome at the reception? Plus mini update. My 20 female cousin Isabel, 26 female, is getting married in January. I chose a set of Royal Albert plates from the gift registry, and they've already been delivered. The invitation said the ceremony would be first, followed immediately by meals, and guests would start making their way to the reception hall. Invitation also said to be prepared for a night of drinking and dancing at a reception. Then, a couple of days ago, Isabel called me. We made some small talk. She then said she wanted to call just to confirm I knew the reception was more for partying, and it isn't really suitable for me considering I'm not even 21. I said I'm fine drinking water and soda, but she replied the capacity for the reception hall is smaller, so they're not including younger guests. Mind you, this is a child-free wedding, so there aren't really any younger guests, and I get not wanting to have kids around for the reception. Isabel said I'm invited to the ceremony and dinner. I was confused and told her this is really weird. The invitation said ceremony and reception. She replied she's sorry for the misunderstanding, but it said there would be drinking and stuff. Eventually, I told her, okay, I respect that, but if she could kindly send the plates back so I can get a refund. Isabel asked why, because I'm going to be there for the most important part, and they've included me in the catering. I said I was expecting to attend the entire wedding, not half, and I bought the gift based on that. I might not attend it all now, so she needs to send the plates back, and I'll decide another suitable gift if any. She said no one takes back gifts, and it's not like I'm uninvited. If I don't want to come now, that's on me, and I've already gotten the gift. I also got a text from my other cousin, Isabel's sister, that I'm making a scene. She's 19, by the way, and attending the reception. I know another cousin the same age as me is attending the reception, and I think Isabel's talked to other relatives about it. My fiancé thinks I'm okay though. So was I the a-hole asking to return the plates? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. You were uninvited. Of course you're free to request your gift back. Classy? Probably not, but that's not the bride's theme anyways. The bride uninvited her from the reception? so OP uninvited her as a gift receiver. And her reason was also so meh. What about adults that don't drink? Does she throw people from the reception that aren't at least some intoxicated after 1 hour? Not the a-hole. She is disrespecting you. You are an adult, not a child. And her sister, who is younger than you, is going. Yep, it sounds like she didn't plan her wedding well, and probably planned for more no RSVPs than yeses, and is now trying to backtrack because she didn't get a big enough venue. It's one of the first big decisions you have to make. Same as making sure there's an indoor option if you plan to have your wedding outside. Example, we plan on inviting around 100 people to our wedding and ask venue about capacity, parking space, seating, etc. They said they've had up to 300 cars. Obviously, we're expecting nowhere near that many people, but it made sure we didn't have any potential issues, like what I suspect is happening with your cousin. That's the a-hole. Don't invite people if you don't want them to attend, and her excuse is BS. You're 20, not 13 or 15. Plenty of 20 years old hang out around 21 to 23-year-olds because it's the same age group and she's your cousin. So I'm sure you've seen each other at family events if you live close to each other. Not the a-hole. If she didn't want younger-aged people during reception, then she should have informed you before. But she didn't. You gave the gift on the basis that you're attending the whole wedding. Since she can't suddenly uninvite you from reception, then you can also ask for your gift back. To be honest, I feel like she wanted the gift before rejecting you. Sorry, because I always think of the worst reasons for things happening. But whatever it is, you are absolutely right in wanting your gift back. But your relationship with her might be damaged, so be ready for that. I don't even think she thinks much of the relationship between you and her, since she is uninviting you from the reception but not giving a proper reason other than your age, and also acting salty about returning the gift. Edit. I have a small update. I just got off the phone with my mom because I wanted to ask her if they'd picked a gift for Isabel yet. Otherwise, they can potentially take mine and the whole situation. She said Isabel called her too and said they're welcome to the ceremony, but the reception is more for friends and partying. My parents are definitely above 21, and they also had ceremony and reception on their invitation. Parents were planning to gift money, so they haven't given it yet. They think it was really rude of Isabel to invite then uninvite, and they might not attend the ceremony but not sure. And I'm officially confused. Why not just have a ceremony in our invitations in the first place? Last story. Am I the a-hole for causing my ex-girlfriend's father to lose his job? A while back, I, 40s male, dated a woman, 30s female, whose father, 60s male, was a nice enough person, but a bit overprotective of his adult daughter. After about a month of dating, and without any reason to do so, he ran a full background check on me, including a credit check, without my knowledge or permission. It came back clean, and my girlfriend told me about it immediately after the fact. I noticed a 5-point hit to my credit rating, but that wasn't a big deal. I was more peeved that someone ran a criminal and financial check on me without my knowledge or consent, but I decided to let it go to keep the peace. We broke up 3 months later and had little contact after the breakup. Approximately 2 months after we broke up, my now ex-girlfriend reached out to me. It turns out her father ran the background and credit checks through his work. He hired employees, so he had access to his company's system to run the checks. He digitally clicked that I had granted consent to the checks, but of course I had not done so and he had no backup. His company's internal audit department was giving him a hard time to provide the backup. She asked me to complete and retroactively date, sign and email a form consent to the checks to her. I was still a little peeved about the checks, so I declined to do so. She went nuts, and her father even called trying to explain his position. He was much nicer about it than her, but I still declined. Ultimately, the internal auditor for my ex's father's company called to follow up and determine what happened, and I told the auditor the entire true story, and my ex's father lost his job. He was close to retirement, but I know I set him and his wife back a bit. She occasionally lashed out via text for a month after calling me an a-hole. It was a relatively minor inconvenience to my life, and it did cost him a lot. So I ask you, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He misused his position and got himself fired. Yeah, this is a huge breach of ethics and a massive liability issue for his company. Hope he may have been nice enough to just tell the internal auditors the truth, but he would have been well within his rights to pursue legal action over this. He deserved to be fired for violating people's privacy just because he felt like it. The vast majority of people don't have access to these types of systems, and they still have romantic relationships without needing to background check people. Overprotective is one thing, but this is another matter entirely. OP, if you're feeling guilty over this, think about the fact that if he hadn't gotten caught, he probably would have kept doing the same thing to other people. Maybe his daughter's next boyfriend, maybe a new neighbor, maybe a stranger who he just doesn't like. Some of them might have been negatively affected by the credit score hit. Others might have something in their background that he could use to blackmail them or destroy their lives. You are absolutely not the a-hole. Also, now that her father has been fired, he can be a cautionary tale for his former co-workers who might be considering doing the same thing. Whereas if he got away with it, he'd be an example of being able to get away with it, which would only encourage co-workers to do the same thing. I've been at my job for 19 years. Despite having been there for such a long time, I am 100% aware of what things are ground for immediate dismissal, and I don't do those things. In fact, we take yearly training on things like protect people's personal identifying information. There's no way that Dad didn't know. He got himself fired for looking up someone's PII without their consent. There was even a checkbox he had to check that said he was doing it with consent. He did it to himself. Why he thought it was worth risking his retirement over? Well, now he'll have plenty of time to think about that. For crying out loud, criminal records are public. If he was concerned about that, he could have paid $20 to look those up online, on his personal machine, and not gotten in any trouble at all. Dad lost his job in retirement because he couldn't spend $20 of his own money on something that wasn't his damn business anyway. OP is the victim, not the dad. Dad fooled around and found out, not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she could hold her grandchild at my funeral? So, I, 28 female, cannot have kids without death or serious injury and passionately do not want them. Nor does my husband. And no, before anyone assumes we're kid-hating monsters, we don't dislike kids. We have a combined total of 8 nieces and nephews, all of whom we love dearly. They just can't live in our house. My mother, bless her heart, is currently infected with baby rabies. Her friends keep getting grandkids, and the best I'm willing to do is dogs. Yesterday, I was talking on the phone with my mom, and she casually brings up how nice it would be to have a baby around. Now, I have a policy for people trying to pry about my reproductive affairs, and that policy is to make them as unfreaking comfortable as I can so they never ask again. My mom has never been on the receiving end, but she has seen me do it. The first time I'm like, nah, too much work, and they don't even get cute for like 3 years. Puppies are born cute and stay cute. But she kept pressing things like, dogs won't love you like kids do. And here's where I may be the a-hole. I snapped and said, well, if you want a baby that bad, I can make sure to put it in my will that you can hold it through my funeral. My mom just made a noise like a mouse being stepped on and hung up on me. She now is refusing to answer any of my text messages about anything. I might have overreacted, just a little, and she's my mom. So, am I the a-hole? Edit. Yes, my mom knows about the health conditions. I was born with them, and they've worsened over time. I'm very transparent about not being able to have / not wanting kids, but I do love the kids in my life. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You tried handling this with tact. Your mother pursued the topic and you told her exactly what would happen should you decide to ever have children. You would die. I don't see what she has to complain about when there are 8 other children running around. Why does she need a baby from you? I'm her only biological kid. She won't feel like a grandma till I pop one out apparently. Wow, that is very cold. Do your siblings know the stance that your mother has taken regarding biological grandchildren? No, my mom dotes on my siblings' kids. She adores them, really. Part of the 8 total are on my husband's side. And I have 2 half-siblings I didn't meet until I was 23, and they have kids. I'm on the same boat as you, so I'm going with a firm not the a-hole. What is it with people not respecting someone's choice and not having kids? Just because we are made to reproduce does not mean we should have to. The thing I hate most about people who don't accept the no are those who say, "Oh, you were young. Wait for your biological clock to kick." As if saying, "Okay, Barb, whatever you say." I'm going with not a hole on this. Yes, it was over the top, but I salute your willingness to commit to something like that. She's your mom, and she's seen you deal with this in the past. So I don't get how/why she would think it would go any other way. And why should twist a knife into you for something that more than likely hurts like hell when you learned it? It hurt a lot initially. I was devastated. Because in the area where I live, people usually start having kids pretty young, and everything has to be kid-friendly. But about the time nephew started coming, I realized that I really disliked taking care of babies. And by the time I got to college, I discovered how much fun it is to be the cool wine aunt. But every so often, it still hurts. Especially when my mom presses the issue. Edit. So, my mom did message me back and apologized. She'd also like us to come around 12 p.m. to tidy up the yard, and she's going to pay us with lunch and beer. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not getting to know my nephew and niece and not wanting to bring them into my home? I, 27 female, have an older sister, 28 female. We're 18 months apart in age. I have a 2-year-old son, she has a 5-year-old son, and a 3-year-old daughter. I have never met her kids. My sister and I never got along, and I'll be honest that I don't know why it started. Petty stuff more than likely, but I'll always remember that my sister wished I had never been born. She told me multiple times. She told my friends too. Our parents really hated it, and I remember all the times she would talk to us about not having to be best friends, but we should be respectful and not mean. We went to therapy, individually and together. They tried to get our cousins to help things, not by forcing time together, but by trying to encourage less hostility. When I graduated high school, she didn't show up, and she got a lot of crap for it. And then when she showed up at our cousin's graduation a week later, in a different city, she made her feelings very clear. That I should not have sent our family after her. I didn't, but she blamed me. And that if she hadn't been clear before that she never wanted me for her sister, she wished I had never been born, and everyone would have been better off without me around. Ask her what I ever did. She told me she didn't have to tell me anything and to leave her alone. So I did, and I have. She refused to bring her kids around me. She would give ultimatums to family. Either invite her and exclude me, or invite us both, but she would not be there. She had a fit at our grandmother's 70th birthday because Grandma wanted her to come anyway. And she showed up and wouldn't bring her son in, who was a baby at the time, because I was there. It seems now she has calmed a little. Our parents babysit for her, and they have shown me texts where she told them it was okay to have me around them. They ask, but I said no. I said no for 2 reasons. I know that she would stop that access at any time, for any reason, and I could do nothing about it. And I'm worried if she did that, it would hurt my son as he gets older and if he got to bond with him. I should also point out she had a very nasty response when my parents tried getting her to meet him. My parents don't get my refusal. They told me I should jump at the chance. Then a week ago, they asked me to watch the kids for 2 hours for them. I said no. I said I didn't feel comfortable with that. My parents tore me to pieces for not doing more to have a relationship with my niece and nephew, and that I should be ashamed. I am having some guilt about my decision. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You are under no obligations to rebuild bridges other people burned. Yeah, some people like walking with a can of gasoline spilling behind them and let's match in their other hand. You do not need to put time and resources rebuilding the bridge when they will just burn it back down again. Not the a-hole. She has hurt you repeatedly in the past and damaged your relationship. It's entirely your choice whether you want to try repairing it or not. But honestly, given that she hasn't even offered an apology, it doesn't seem that it would be worth it. And your parents should stay out of it since you're a grown adult and can handle relationships yourself. She doesn't want to repair her relationship with me. She's just open to me meeting her kids. That is what partly worries me more. Would she use her kids to hurt me more? Probably. It's possible she just wants a free babysitter. Not the a-hole. Your sister is a toxic and manipulative woman. parents as well in my opinion, by continually trying to force Opie to just get over it and pushing boundaries. This isn't run-of-the-mill sibling bickering. I'd bet Opie's sister would be livid if she found out Opie's mom tried to get her to babysit those kids alone. Like, it's great they got them into therapy, but they're nearing 30 now. And as inconvenient as it is for the rest of the family to have to deal with their unwillingness to even be under the same roof as each other, they need to stop trying to force it. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to share baby stuff with my stepsister because we're never going to know each other as sisters? Title sounds bad. My stepsister and I have been in each other's lives since we were 2, me and her 3. For the first decade, we primarily lived with each other in the household with our married parents. She saw her mom on occasion, but in general lived with me, mom, and stepdad. The times she was with her mom were pretty terrible because she would come back adamant to reject and hurt me. One time, she told me she hoped I would die, so her dad would let her live with her mom. My stepdad had her in therapy. Most of our time together was spent with some form of supervision because of how she treated me. When she was 15 then, she decided to go live with her mom and cut me off, even going to the length of ignoring me in school and acting like it didn't exist. When she was 19, she started speaking to my stepdad and mom again, and over time, me. But she never really stopped being passive-aggressive about us not being related. She would say I was her dad's stepkid, or say I was someone she knew through family when talking to other people. I admit it was hard because we could have been sisters, but she didn't want that or was taught not to want it. As luck would have it, we're now both pregnant at the same time. She's due about 3 weeks after me, and she's been trying to be all buddy-buddy while also saying things like, they're never going to know each other as cousins, and it's not like we're real sisters. So I think she's mostly trying to get free stuff. I ended up with a surplus of clothes because my partner has a huge family, and they all gave us a ton of newborn clothes. My stepdad was helping me box stuff up, and he mentioned it to my stepsister who wanted them. I said no. She said it was witchy for me to say no when I had too many to use. I told her I had already promised some to a friend, which was true. She told me family trumps friends. I said, we're never going to know each other as sisters, so we're not really family. And she laughed, but then told my stepdad what I said. He told me the fact she was asking said she was maybe ready to move forward. I told him it's not true. But am I wrong? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Don't give her a thing. She's being manipulative. Yep. She can't treat you like crap for so long and then try to be all let's be friends. That's dumb. Don't give her the baby's clothes. Find a way to make it clear to your stepdad that she just wants stuff from you and tell him about her previous comments. Not the a-hole. Exactly. If she really wanted to be family and put her past behind her, she would first apologize, then try to build a relationship without trying to get free stuff from you to prove she's sincere. She's only after your stuff, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She's clearly trying to play you and your stepdad off against each other. This is a sad situation. It's obvious that her mother has been teaching her to hate you all her life, probably to get back at your stepdad for leaving, and now your stepsister is an adult. She either hasn't figured this out or can't be bothered to do anything about it. But that's not your issue. Regardless of the cause, she's a deeply toxic person for you to be around, and you're fully justified in limiting your contact with her as much as possible. Hopefully, she'll realize what's going on here and what it's costing her and do the work to deal with her toxicity. I wouldn't count on it though. Not the a-hole. She isn't ready to move on. She's ready to get free handouts. Exactly. Not the a-hole. You are perfectly entitled to enforce the boundaries she created and also give your things to people of your choosing. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my grandparents that they need to F off and stop asking when they're getting great grandchildren? My 17 female grandparents on my dad's side are obsessed with the idea of having great grandchildren. They generally ask and do a lot of things that make me uncomfortable, like asking about very personal things and constantly overstepping boundaries. I have 2 sisters, a younger one, 15, and an older one, 19. My dad cut contact with his parents when I was around 7 or 8, but after him and my mother divorced, he started talking to them again. My older sister invited them to her 19th birthday last year, and that was the first time we saw them in 8 years or so. My grandpa's a speech type of guy, or whatever you'd call it, so he wrote a speech to her. He included a joke in the speech that was something along the lines of, "Oh, and your grandma and I better get some great grandkids before we expire." I'm not even sure if she wants kids or not. Not that it's even any of my business, but I remember how uncomfortable she looked after my grandpa told that joke. Every time we've seen them since my sister's birthday, they've made some comments or conversation about great-grandkids. My sister doesn't like confrontation, so she made my dad talk to them about how it makes her uncomfortable. It makes him uncomfortable too, lol. They told him they understood and that they'd stop doing it. But they didn't. I've also confronted them about it, but they always just laugh it off. They crossed the line completely 2 weeks ago. It was my birthday. They had bought me a gift that they gave to my dad a few days in advance because they were going on vacation. When I opened the gift from them and read a birthday card, it said something that roughly translates to, "Now you're almost of age to give us those great grandkids your sister won't give us." As if my sister or I owe them anything. We don't owe them crap. My dad got really mad and called them on the phone. As soon as they picked up, I asked him if I could talk to them. He gave me the phone, and it was my grandma. She said, "Happy birthday, Cherimus. Did you like the gift?" I ignored what she said entirely and just started ranting and said, "You want to know something? I don't want kids. And if I ever do decide to have kids, I'm gonna adopt." She sounded completely shocked, as if it was completely natural for me to not want biological kids. She then proceeded to ask me if it was because I was gay. I told her to F off, and that it's messed up that they're so obsessed about great-grandchildren when my sisters and I, their grandchildren, are literally all still teenagers. Then I hung up and told my dad that if he was gonna call them back, he better not do it while I was there. I regret what I said to her, and that I haven't even thanked them for the gift yet. I'm just super embarrassed about how I talked to her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Her retort asking if you were gay as the reason for not having children deserves a fiery response in kind. I see why your father went no contact for a while, and maybe you should follow his lead. I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to make them feel bad, especially because they're already really sad about missing out on so much of me and my sister's childhoods. And yes, the gay comment was really just the last straw for me. I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to make them feel bad. Then they should stop acting bad. There is a reason your dad went no contact, and you are seeing some of it now. Ask him about it, if it's not too touchy of a subject. Not the a-hole. I actually laughed when I read that part. Sometimes people just need to be told leave you alone with a few curse words. Glad I could make you laugh, haha. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, on one hand I feel like they had it coming, but on the other hand I might have overreacted. WTF? Your sister is 19 and they're pushing kids? You are 17 and they're pushing? That's weird. I get that they're from another time or whatevs, but you really should not even think about having kids right now. And even if you were older, it's annoying and none of their business. They can wish grandchildren if they want, but there's no way this kind of pushing is okay. I'm so baffled because you're so young. Not the a-hole at all. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they're bad parents to me? I, 16 female, am the oldest of 5, and my parents have a hard time supporting our family. It wasn't always like this, but when I was around 7 or 8, my dad's company folded and life changed a lot. At the time, my mom was pregnant with my 3rd sibling. Life changed a lot, but mostly for me. As the oldest, they figured I should make sacrifices so my siblings wouldn't have to. And I went along with it for a long time. But in the last 2 years, it has been making me bitter and resentful. I think the reason I feel this way is I had a field trip come up that my whole class was going on, and I wanted to go so bad. It would have been the first field trip in 6 years, and it would have been great to go with my friends. Before, there were always others who didn't go, but that year everyone was going. And my parents couldn't make it work because my younger siblings had theirs coming up. It was like a switch flipped, because before, I just kind of accepted that as the oldest, I needed to be more understanding. But suddenly, I wasn't okay with it. I don't feel like I should be sacrificing again and again so my siblings can have a childhood with fun stuff. I think we should all get something on occasion. But my parents didn't want to listen then when I tried to bring it up, so I dropped it. With everything in the past year, stuff has been even more rough. I ended up getting a job during COVID so I could maybe treat myself on occasion and save for stuff my parents couldn't save for. I hit a breaking point 2 weeks ago. My sister's birthday was coming up and my parents' money that was saved for her gift went onto the electrician instead. And since they know I work, they asked me to give them my money for her gift. Not let them borrow, no talk of even paying me back. Just give it. I said no, and they told me to think of my sister. I snapped and told them I was tired of them being better parents to my siblings than me, and it was clear they didn't give a damn unless it's them. Of course, it resulted in a fight, and now I'm being blamed. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your parents now take you for granted. You are not the third parent. Is there any other adult relative you can lean on? Do you have plans for the future? If you're planning on college or extensive post-high school vocation training, you need to make sure you take care of that. And don't let your parents demand you sacrifice that future to take care of your siblings. Do not give them the money. I'm betting they didn't do anything for your birthday. I can't help but wonder if Opie's parents will expect Opie to work after school to pay for siblings' college. Not an a-hole. They should be treating all their kids equally. You didn't have a field trip in 6 years. They should have made an effort to make sure you got one. What did they get for you for your birthday? I'm guessing nowhere near as much as they want to spend on your sister? As soon as it is legal to do so, make sure they have no access to your money. In some countries it is 18, but in others it is less. Hopefully that is the case for you. And while they can control your bank account, hide the money elsewhere and safe enough so they can't accidentally find it. Not an a-hole. Your parents shouldn't have had more children than they can afford to raise, and you have every right to point this out. I'm really sorry you're in this situation, and I hope you get to go on your trip. Exactly. What were they thinking? That more babies would help their financial problems? Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my wife I warned you when our son got a lock for his room? So here's the problem. My son Simon, 16, moved out of the room he used to share with his little brother and got his own room a few months back. Ever since, has been complaining about his mom barging in without knocking and interrupting his sleep and studying, sometimes when he's changing. I know that she's his mother, but he says he's got his own room and has a job and is learning to become an independent adult, but doesn't feel like his privacy is being respected even when that's his mom. He says he's not a kid anymore and is entitled to at least get a knock on the door before she comes in. He was getting tired of her not listening to him, so he came to me and said, Dad, you need to help me set some clear boundaries with Mom. So I spoke to her about her need to knock before entering Simon's room. She was like, What? And no, we're family, not strangers. Do you really expect me to foolishly knock on the door 5 times a day? That's ridiculous. Also said, Who knocks doors in their own home? I told her my family, for instance. She made a face, then went on a rant about how my family hate each other, and the way they treat each other like they were strangers is shameful. I told her family are strangers, it's about respecting one's privacy. We had an argument about it, and I told her if she wasn't going to stop with the barging and refuse to knock on the door before entering, then our son will get a lock. She did it again at 11 p.m. She barged in when our son was asleep. He jumped up because he got scared. Once he told me this, I told him to go ahead and get a lock and pay for it with his own money. There was literally no other way. My wife saw it and got upset. And my brother was visiting when she was raising her voice at me. questioning if I really went ahead and got a lock for Simon despite her disapproval, and said that I caught her off guard. And it's not okay because this teaches our children that they can manipulate one parent into doing what they want. I told her that A, Simon got the lock, not me, and B, I already warned her about the possibility of him getting a lock because he was getting tired of her boundary crossing, so she should have expected this outcome. She mentioned the same above points in her defense, and said locks mean secrets, and that's not good. My brother was sitting watching while she was complaining. She began chewing him out when he asked her to let Simon keep the lock and said it wasn't a big deal. She stopped talking to me and Simon till we removed the lock, but I have no intentions in doing that. Was I at fault for my stance? I think your wife is a Nahal, but the way you handled it with your wife was cowardly. You supported what your son did. In fact, you told him to do it, but then you played stupid by essentially saying he paid for it. I had no part in it. If you believed in your son's position, you should have supported that to your wife. In fact, if you felt so strongly, you should have told her the next time you do that, I will personally install a lock on his door. Everyone sucks here, except Simon. I agree. You sort of threw your son under the bus here. Sorry that your wife didn't handle her end well. It's totally respectful to knock on doors even in your own home. My 3-year-old has no problem with this concept. But your son needed more backup than you gave him. Everyone sucks here. Yo, seriously. My 3-year-old knocks, and we knock before we go in the bathroom to help her wipe. Sure, privacy is a bizarre concept in terms of she doesn't have secrets, really. But you model the behavior you expect from them, and it pays off. When you think they're asleep. At the moment this post is going to wonder why her children don't visit or call her. Talk to her about stuff when they're adults / out of the house. And this is part of the reason. Not Dayhal. So, do you have intimacy with your wife with the door open? Do you shower with the door open? Poop. There are reasonable things that one does in private that even a mother does not need to know about, much less see. Especially if you're a 16-year-old dude with raging hormones. Not Dayhal. What the hell? Why is this such a big deal for her? It's unreasonable to put up a fight against someone who's telling you to just knock before entering their private space. Good on you for advising him to get a lock. Also, why is she going to his room at 11 at night? Has she always acted like this, or is it new behavior? It's a big deal for her because she feels her authority as his mother is slipping away, and she doesn't like it. I had kids young, and both my and my ex-wife's primary identities were parent. As the kids got older, I worked to transition away from that, but she found herself very adrift as a mother who didn't have young children anymore, and she kind of lost her way. Maybe something like that is happening here. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my daughter go on a diet? My wife and I have been married for 17 years. We have a 14-year-old daughter, and we have 4 other children. Our daughter is a beautiful girl, and she was quite skinny when she was young. But since entering her teenage years, she has gained a little weight. She is by no means fat, or even overweight, but just not as skinny as she was when she was a kid. She's tall at 170 centimeters, 5'7", and weighs 64 kilograms, 143 pounds, with BMI of about 22, which is not considered overweight. But my wife is concerned because of her weight gain from when she was 12 to now. She does ballet and gymnastics, so she stays active. However, my wife is taking a more drastic approach and wants to put her on a diet while she's home for the summer holidays. My wife so far started nudging her to eat healthier. Last dinner, during supper, as my daughter asked for another slice of pie at dessert, my wife made a face and told her you've had enough. My wife has also told our cook not to make her any desserts or unhealthy fried snacks. She is also working with a dietitian to make a weight loss plan for her. My daughter seems to have noticed her mother's disapproval, and their relationship has become strained. It doesn't help that my wife keeps mentioning how thin our younger daughter, 11, is. I think part of this stems from my wife's background as a fashion model. She has been underweight for her entire life. When she was in her teens/early 20s, she was skeletal. She was 180 centimeters, 5'11", and 53 kilograms, 116 pounds, at her lowest weight. Now she is a healthier weight, but still very thin. I butted heads with my wife today after she got upset at our daughter for getting ice cream with a friend. She said this was her 4th time this week eating ice cream, and that she needs to be more serious about eating better. I told my wife she's been controlling and making our daughter self-conscious. My wife said she needs to toughen up and make better choices, or else she will end up fat. Of course, this conversation was not in earshot of our daughter, but still, I was shocked at my wife for saying that. I agree with encouraging her to make healthier choices, but flat out veto the idea of putting her on a diet plan with the goal of losing weight. She called me an enabler and accused me of spoiling her. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hal. Your wife needs to shut up before she gives your daughter an eating disorder. I'd honestly give an ultimatum at this point. How is the daughter in a situation similar to this one? My mom bullied me into developing anorexia. Same, bulimia. NTA, NTA, NTA. Please don't let your wife do this. She's steering your daughter towards a lifelong and healthy relationship with food. She's literally a teenager. She's supposed to weigh more than she did 2 years ago. She's growing strong and her body's maturing. Of course she weighs more. Your wife, from her background, probably has her own issues with eating. Do not let her pass on her own insecurities to your daughter. Also, she does gymnastics and ballet. Muscle weighs more than fat. Your wife seems to think that if you're not supermodel stick thin, you're fat. That's extremely unhealthy outlook to have, and even worse to pass on to your daughter. Not today, Hal, and do not let your wife do this. Not today, Hal. Your wife is driving your healthy and athletic daughter towards self-esteem issues and a possible eating disorder. Your former fashion model wife is obsessed with being model thin, which more often than not is underweight, which isn't necessarily healthy. Your daughter is a growing, adolescent dancer and a gymnast, which means that she's not only going through hormonal changes, but as an athlete, her body mass has more muscle, which is heavier on a scale. Your wife needs to be less focused on the appearance of thinness and numbers on a scale and more about your daughter's overall health. Have your wife talk to your daughter's doctor and go with her medical advice. You may also want to have your daughter talk to a therapist. Good luck. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for rejecting a birthday party that has to be shared with my sister? My 15 female, sister 12 female, and I have birthdays 1 month apart. Mine in June and hers in July. The other night, my parents told me they couldn't afford for both of us to have birthday parties, or in my case have a night at a movie with some friends and a sleepover after. So they have decided we should celebrate together, at the house, with our friends and mine. I'll be 16 and she'll be 13. That sounds like a hellish birthday celebration. Hanging around a bunch of 12/13-year-olds, and my sister annoying me the whole time, because every birthday, she insists on me playing with her or bouncing her in the bounce house. And if it's supposed to be about me too, then I don't want that stuff. So I told my parents it was okay, I didn't need to celebrate. I'd rather just let it be her birthday party. They're mad because my sister was so excited by the idea. They told her a week before me, and now I've said no and she was already expecting it. They're also mad because I showed no excitement. They asked if there was any way to change my mind, so I said, what about just a sleepover for me separate from the joint party? And they said no, and why not have my friends sleep over that night after the party since my sister will be doing the same? We did that once. Just 2 regular sleepovers, and my sister and her friends took over the whole thing and wouldn't stop bugging us. My parents think it's unfair to turn down a party that would include both of us, and said I should be grateful for any birthday party. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and your suggestion of a sleepover for me separate is a good one. It costs next to nothing to have friends sleep over. Whatever food/cake expenses are there would have been more or less built into the joint party anyway. If you were turning 3 and 6, fine. If you were turning 30 and 33, fine. The 3 years between 13 and 16 are a chasm. Hope your parents reconsider, and if they do not, pick the lesser of 2 evils. Having the joint party or having no party. Happy birthday in any event. The lesser of 2 evils is definitely not having the party. At least in my eyes it is. Would one of your friends host you that night? Acknowledged. It is super rude to ask. If a sleepover would make you happy and commemorate the night for you, and get you away from a bunch of 13-year-olds at no expense to your parents, it may work out for everyone. Not Daeho. If they wanted to celebrate you, they'd do something you wanted. They want to get credit for celebrating you when it's all about your sister. Not Daeho. This above post is right. I had to share a birthday party with my brother the entire time growing up, because his birthday was 364 days behind mine, and the party swiftly became all about him, only son. It was a time of celebration for him. Cake, presents, etc. For me, not even a cake. No cards, no presents, because my birthday happened to be the next day. This happened each and every year. And when I left home, they totally ignored my birthday. Not even a phone call. It starts with a shared birthday and goes downhill from there. Not always, but they rarely turn out well. OP is stand your ground. Your parents don't have to spend money. A cake can be made at home. A sleepover is inexpensive. Don't let this shared birthday party happen. It builds resentment between siblings rather than fosters care and happiness. One of you, either you or your sister, will feel left out/abandoned. Parents told my brother that he could take my house and I could just live in a camper in the backyard because I'm single and he has a wife and kids. Part 1. I'm a single man in my early 30s. I've got a brother who's 29 and he's already got 4 kids now. He had his first at 22, and the second followed a year later. Then the third 2 years after that, and the fourth is most recently born a couple months ago. His wife, my sister-in-law, and I did not get along, as she always likes to try and get a rise out of me by acting superior, then turns into an extreme self-victimizing drama queen if I retaliated against her in any way. She can cry in an instant, and can put on an extremely convincing show to get sympathy from just about anyone. My parents and brother absolutely adore her though, even if they know exactly how she really is and just don't care. She's very good looking, I'll give her that, but she's so awful that I could never be attracted to her. She also refuses to get any sort of job, even though she has a college degree, and my mother willingly helps with the kids all day. So, their finances are entirely dependent on my brother. This also means they can't afford to live anywhere but my parents' house, and privacy is a bit of an issue, with all of them under one roof in a 3-bedroom house that was built in the 60s. Growing up, my younger brother was also the obvious favorite. We're 3 years apart in age, but he developed a superiority complex because I was badly punished if I retaliated against his antics in any way back then. It was obvious my parents cared for him a lot more, because he got the lion's share of everything, unless people called them out on it. Which did happen a fair bit by other members of family, which is why my parents packed us all up and moved us about 150 miles away from them, so they generally would only see us on holidays since it was a 3-hour drive. My brother got physical towards me on a number of occasions, flirted relentlessly with my first girlfriend to the point she broke up with me, and laughed at any misfortune I had, and my parents just told me to suck it up whenever I was upset about it. I only got equal treatment when my parents wanted to keep up appearances. I admit it was rather funny to see the looks on their faces whenever they had to treat me equal to my brother on birthdays and Christmas because other people were present. We had relatives that were very nosy and loved gossiping drama. So my parents did their best to hide what was really going on and threatened to take all my stuff away if I didn't keep my mouth shut. If anything, it just made my parents celebrate more when I turned 18 and moved out, because it meant they no longer had to provide for me. I wasn't even done with high school yet when I moved out, but couch surfing was far better than living with them. I was low contact ever since leaving home. They didn't even show up for my high school graduation, but I really didn't care. From that point on, I would usually only see my parents and brother on holidays like the rest of the family. The start of 2020 pandemic was not kind to me. I lost my job and couldn't renew the lease on the condo because my roommate also lost his job, and neither of us could afford the place on unemployment money. It was a rented 2-bedroom condo that I really loved. As the lease was ending, my roommates left early to move back in with relatives, and I had to sell nearly all of my stuff because I was soon going to be homeless if I didn't downsize to an extreme. I really shouldn't have rented a place that was so expensive, but I liked living the high life. Until that, life wasn't kind to me, and I realized I should have been living somewhere far cheaper so I could have saved more money to fall back on. But I had a plan. I own a truck simply for the fact that I've always loved trucks. So, I found a $1,000 camper in good shape and put it on my truck just so I could live out of it for a while. It was supposed to be temporary, but I ended up living out of it far longer than I ever thought. I originally was hoping to be able to live out of the camper at my parents' house, where my brother and his family still reside as well. But when I asked my parents to let me stay for a while, they told me they had a full house and didn't want me there. Plus, we hadn't exactly gotten along in the past decade. They said they'd only agree to let me park my camper there if I paid them basically what it would cost to rent an apartment in my area. That was way too much just to park my camper. I was jobless and trying to save as much of my unemployment money as I could till I could find a new job. I may as well be living in an apartment with that rent price they were asking. My parents called my camper an eyesore and told me to take a hike since we couldn't come to an agreement. And sister-in-law thought it was absolutely hilarious I had to live in a camper. My brother joined her in pointing at and mocking me while calling me a homeless bum. So, I parked my truck/camper in the store parking lot to sleep on the first night that I had nowhere else to go. I felt scared out of my mind that someone might try to break in. Suffice to say, I didn't sleep well that night. There was nowhere else I could go, as any other relatives that owned houses were fairly far away and all my friends were all apartment people. And I was pretty attached to my area as well, so I didn't want to just leave. I'd also had my mail forwarded to a friend's apartment. It was the only way I could still get my mail anymore. Finding a stable place to park was pretty difficult. I went looking around to try and find a job similar to my old one. It took months of living the nomadic camper life. In that time, I had to deal with a lot. Everything from beggars and drug addicts to people demanding I leave because my camper was an eyesore. At one point, someone had told me to move claimed to be with an HOA. I wasn't even parked on a street with houses. And when I questioned, "What HOA?" they got incredibly belligerent and threatened me. So I moved my camper anyway just to avoid a trouble. In order to have a steady supply of electricity, I learned to use a long extension cord to plug in anywhere I could to recharge my camper batteries. This meant sneaking around and plugging it into an outside outlet of a random building while parked on a street. I know that's a crummy thing to do, but I had to keep my batteries charged so my refrigerator would stay cold. I had a small solar power bank for recharging my phone, but I didn't have anything like a generator. And generators are noisy and required fuel anyway, so I did what I had to do. After months of living like that, I finally managed to get a new job. I had to move to the neighboring city to find a job that didn't involve retail. I worked retail while in college and promised myself never again, though I was nearly ready to break that promise. I was still getting unemployment money, but I had no stable place to live while receiving it. And I didn't want to still be jobless when it ran out. Plus, I was bored out of my mind. I had little else to do but read, watch movies on a small portable DVD player, use my phone or laptop, and keep note of where I could park and what local public bathrooms I could use. I kind of envy that the Japanese have public bathhouses. We could really use stuff like that over here. When I finally landed a new job, I practically lived in the back lots of the building by the warehouse and old employee parking spaces literally no one else seemed to bother using, because they were so far in the back that the area was borderline forgotten. My boss/company owner actually liked this arrangement because I was willingly available to take any shift I could get, so long as I had enough sleep. He even let me take the camper off my truck and set it up in one of the spaces so I could drive around without it. Not exactly sure if this was legal, but no one bothered us about it. The entire time I lived back there, I didn't have to deal with many trespassers. There were a few, but the security guards escorted them out. I was pretty much on call almost all the time when they needed me, and was working virtually every day of the week. My boss let me plug my camper into the building for power and water, and I paid a small amount of rent by working for free on Sundays, when no one else was in the office but the janitor and security guard. Beyond that, I usually had to shower at a friend's apartment or at my local gym as the camper didn't have a shower in it, and only a portable toilet. And I didn't want to fill it because emptying it is a nasty chore. So I used other bathrooms as often as I could. I had a key to the warehouse and could go in to use the bathroom there at any hour. I was even on a first-name basis with the night security guard, who's since become one of my closest friends. The camper was easy to heat in the winter with a small electric heater. Summers were not fun though. The camper didn't have AC, so I had to get a used portable air conditioner just to make it bearable. I made a lot of overtime pay and hands-on learned some new skills from other employees. Eventually, midway into this year, I landed a better position in the company as a supervisor and started making a better salary than my old job. That's when I decided I wanted a house. The scare I'd gotten from losing my condo made me realize I needed something much more stable for the long term. I looked around for something close to my work, and just 2 miles away found a 3-bedroom manufactured home in a small property. But I managed to get it for $10,000 less than the asking price somehow. I used nearly my entire savings for a down payment and got approved for a home loan. I finally didn't have to live in a camper anymore. There was enough space for me to back my truck in behind the house, to take the camper off to set it up in the backyard. So, I put it there as its own little building just in case I want to use it again. When I was fully settled in the house, I was dumb enough to brag about it on my book of faces. My family saw the post, and that's where this crap really starts. After a few weeks, my parents and brother along with his family came to visit completely unannounced to have a tour of my home. I didn't even give them my address. So how they found out where I live, I still don't know. None of my friends have fessed up and no prior family members visited me before that. So I wonder if they stalked me at work and followed me home or something. It really wouldn't surprise me. Once I opened the door, they practically all shoved their way in like rambunctious tourists. Then just started making themselves at home. They all kept poking around, and sister-in-law had this creepy smirk that she was repeatedly flashing me. And it was only later that I figured out why. And it made me madder than a bull on steroids that just got stung by a hornet. My parents were constantly talking about how I've got so much extra space now, and it's too much for someone like me who has no wife or kids. Sure, not now, but maybe someday. And my brother kept remarking about how there was more space than our parents' house, that my house was closer to his job too. Red flags all around, I know. Eventually, my brother asked me to speak privately. Everyone else suddenly left the room and piled out onto the front porch. That's what finally made me realize they'd planned something. My brother, who we'll call Dan, said the house was too much for me alone, that I should let him move in with his family because his wife is pregnant with kid number 4. And my house is much closer to his job. He pointed out that I already have the camper, so I could just live in that outside while they live in the main house. And I'd like to point out that Dan never once spoke of offering rent. Mind you, he's got a good job. He also started talking about how there would be changes and even curfews, and that I couldn't just walk in at any time without prior notice. If it weren't my brother, I think the person I was talking to had lost their mind. But Dan lost his marbles long ago thanks to our parents treating him like he was the center of the world. I tried to speak, but he kept talking over me as if I had no say in the matter. There was no way in hell I'd rent my house nor parts of my house to him. Other people maybe, just so I can pay the mortgage off more easily. But certainly not him, nor his nasty wife. I've heard of this exact kind of situation in videos online many times, and never once did I think I'd actually live it because I thought it so ludicrous. But my parents, brother and sister-in-law do all fit the bill for a bunch of narcissistic entitled crazies. So, I picked up my phone and set it to start recording, then just held onto it. Dan didn't even seem to care or notice that I'd done this, and just sat there with his arms waving around while talking about all the reasons of why he needed my house. Then went from saying that to acting like it was a done deal, and trying to reach out his hand to shake mine. That's when I finally showed my backbone and said, "Hell no." And I said it loud enough that Dan stumbled backward for a second. I'd rarely ever raised my voice to him on that level, because I was punished by our parents whenever I did. But this was my house, not theirs. My spine can be as shiny as it wants here. I stood up and then told him that my house was not up for grabs. And acting like I let him move in just because they want it won't make it happen. I bought my house for me. It is not my fault he keeps having more kids, and he has to keep living with our parents because he can't afford to move out. Dan got as physically close to me as he could without actually touching me and said that I didn't deserve the house, and he needed a better place for his family to live. I laughed back in his face and said that was total BS, because I worked hard to be able to buy my house. Of course I deserved it. Dan started yelling that I have no wife or kids and I don't need all the space, so I may as well give it to him. I said I'm not giving him anything, and he never even offered to pay me rent. If I let him move in, I'd still be covering the entire mortgage on my own house without even being able to live in my own house. Then Dan told me that he shouldn't have to pay rent because his family comes first, and our parents said I was going to do this and that I will. I yelled as if their word was law or something. then told Dan that they did not have the right nor power to give my house to him. Then right on cue, my parents and sister-in-law barged back in through the front door and surrounded me to try and force me to agree. There was a lot of fighting, but to sum it up from this point on, I heard a line, "Just do it for Dan," way more times than I can remember. In the fight, I told them all they don't have a say in my life or my house and to get out before I called the cops. Sister-in-law screamed the loudest at me about how she was pregnant again and I can't do this to her. I said I did nothing to her. She just assumed she could take and take from me, like I would just allow it. I had no obligation to her or her family. Then, I called her a stuck-up witch who never had any respect for me. So I don't care what she thinks or how many kids she has. I have no sympathy for her. She won't be living in my house. Well, that made her angry enough to attack me. She got in one good hit on my face and tried to do more, but my brother held her back kicking and screaming. She kept demanding he let her go so she could scratch my eyes out. The phone I was holding recorded pretty much everything. So I held it up and said I was going to call the police if they didn't leave right away. My parents told Dan they were leaving. Then my mother said that I had a week to come to my senses. I told her I won't be, and to not come back. Then I told sister-in-law that my phone recorded everything, and if she tries anything, I'll press charges for assault. She screamed at me and then stormed out loudly crying with her face in her hands. My mother was the last one out the door and said that I better do this for Dad and sister-in-law. I responded by telling her I won't be. Now for the comments. I would get an order of protection against the sister-in-law. I would also invest in security cameras and upgrade the locks. Maybe even invest in a big dog to act as guard dog for the property. That way, when they return, you have proof of trespassing. File a police report anyway. Let the cops deal with her. Do not get a guard dog. With people as unstable as Opie's family, they're just as likely to kill the dog by feeding it poisoned meat or shoot it and claim self-defense for a poor pregnant woman. Okay, homie, I read it all and goddamn. Here's my 2 cents. 1. Go no contact with the lunatics, no matter what. 2. Do them solid and send that recording to the rest of your family. That way, you can go to the extended family holidays without having those crazies around. 3. Don't be sad about it. It ain't your fault that your brother can't finish in your sister-in-law when he has a big enough space. And definitely not your fault because she refuses to work when your parents already babysit the kids. 4. Keep your insanely strong mental going. You have a winner's attitude, and you continue to win in life no matter what it throws at you. 5. If they ever do this again, police. You already have evidence, so just go for it. You can also consider having cameras around your property just for the property's safety. 6. Get yourself a family of your own. You deserve it. And once that's settled, send some mails asking your parents when will they move in the trailer to make room for your kids. And also let them know the rent they must pay to use your trailer. 7. If sister-in-law tries that again and you catch a second attack on camera, CPS may want to look at how stable she is to be allowed to raise kids. Tell your boss too, so that if they turn up at your job trying to cause trouble, he's already aware of what's going on. Getting a lawyer to send a cease and desist might scare them off for a bit too. Am I the a-hole for asking my dad's brother to walk me down the aisle instead of my dad? I, 28 female, am getting married in the winter. Me and my dad were very close when I was growing up. When I was aged 16, my parents divorced after 20 years of marriage. Now, I don't blame him for this, and from the information I have, I can confidently say it's my mom's fault they divorced. However, after the divorce, he completely ignored all 6 of his children. He didn't make any effort to keep in contact with any of us, and the last time we heard or spoke to him was the night of the separation. For the next 8 years, I was the main earner for my family and was more like a parent to my siblings. During this time, I didn't keep in contact with anybody from my dad's side of the family. I had the phone numbers of a couple of my aunties/cousins, but didn't really speak to them apart from the yearly birthday or Christmas message. I only really saw one cousin of mine regularly, and that was the cousin who was my 19 male brother's best friend growing up. We'll call him Rob. Around about 5 years ago, I had a big falling out with my mother in which I left the house. At this time, I asked Rob for his mother's number so I could ask her to get in touch with my father for me. She gets her husband, my uncle, to ask his brother if I can move in with him, and my dad agrees to let me stay with him, even though I hadn't spoken to him in 7 years at the time. Later on, when I arrived at his home, tells me I can't stay at his and to go stay at a hotel or something. I call my uncle crying, and he says I can come stay with him instead. It seems as though my dad had agreed when his brother had confronted him, but changed his mind when he had gone home to speak to his wife. For the next 2 years, I lived at my uncle's house, and I consider his kids to be more like siblings now. My dad's siblings and cousins from that side of the family always meet up for gatherings multiple times a year, but I don't really communicate with my dad other than saying hello and goodbye at these gatherings. My uncle was there for me when even my own dad wasn't, and his family accepted me as their own, even though I'd barely spoken to them for 8 years at the time. My dad will be invited to the wedding, but I have asked my uncle to walk me down the aisle instead. He is happy I ask him, but is unsure if he wants to accept because he doesn't want to disrespect his older brother and walk his own daughter down the aisle in front of him. I feel as though my dad doesn't deserve to walk me down the aisle, as he didn't have the backbone to stand up to his own wife over his daughter. My uncle even told me he tried to justify himself to his siblings by saying, "They didn't try to keep in touch with me, so why should I look after her?" I'm not being funny, but as being a 16 female at the time and I was the oldest child as well, it wasn't my responsibility to. It was his. Am I the a-hole for asking my dad's brother to walk me down the aisle instead of him in front of him? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You aren't entitled to walk a daughter down the aisle that you abandoned twice. Not the a-hole, but your uncle is also allowed to say no. The rift between him and his brother may not be worth it. Plus, he could be worried that it could cause unnecessary drama on your wedding day and ruin your wedding. Which it very well might. Honestly, at this point, I'd be walking down the aisle by myself if I were you. Not the a-hole. Your dad hasn't been in your life. You're asking someone who has. It's likely your dad will be hurt by this. If you chose to, you could explain the situation in a letter to him, and if you chose, open up the idea of trying to restore the relationship. But perhaps he needs some consequence. Not the a-hole. You can tell your uncle that there's no reality where his older brother will be walking you down the aisle. It's either he walks you or you walk alone. He gets to decide that it will cause him too much grief. But if you make it clear that there is no possibility that you will walk with your bio dad, you're definitely not the a-hole here. You took care of your siblings and cousins when your father wasn't around. You even tried to get in contact with him. I don't think he deserves to walk you down the aisle. It should be who you want, who respects you and you could trust. Best wishes for your marriage. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting one of my best friends to my wedding? Early last year, one of my college best friends told me that she was getting engaged before she told anyone else knew because she wanted to hire my mom as her wedding planner. A couple of days later, she got engaged and told all of our friends that my mom, a professional wedding planner, would plan her wedding. All good until that point. After a couple of meetings with my mom, Lucy stopped responding to my mom. And I noticed by WhatsApp group that she hired all my mom's vendors directly without even telling us. She chose June 2021 as her wedding date. I let that one go because I didn't want to ruin her wedding. Last November, I also got engaged and chose September 2021 as my wedding date to give our friends some time between the two weddings, especially because mine is out of town. Later on, I found out again by a group that she had postponed her wedding to the day after mine. Of course, I was furious, and I had no problem letting her know that time. She finally contacted me and explained that she had no money for the wedding in June, and the day after my wedding was the only available date this whole year in her venue. Again, that's what my mom showed to her, without a contract just because she was my friend. To be honest, I don't buy it. But now I'm the a-hole in our friends group because I uninvited her and was rude to her, and it was not her fault because she has no job. I still feel like she's not the kind of person you call your friend, and does not give me the energy I want to have on my wedding day. Am I the a-hole for this? Not the a-hole. Your mom took the time to plan everything for her. As it's her job, then she just contacted the vendors behind her back. That's already rude. Also, what was she trying to accomplish by moving the date? Reusing your decorations? Having people come to your wedding and just stay one day longer so she doesn't have to cover any costs for guests. I don't get it. Yep. And then she can steal all the designs Opie's mom does for daughter's wedding. Reminder that Opie's wedding is out of town and not at the same venue as former best friend. If anything, this was a ploy to make the friends choose between which wedding they want to attend. And if they wanted to attend both, they'd have to not have too much fun at Opie's wedding. Traveling while hungover surely sucks. And ultimately have to likely leave Opie's wedding early to be able to travel back in time for friend's wedding. But if she had no money for June, how she's going to come up with money just 3 months later? Not today, Hall. That's what I was wondering. Vendors and venues are expensive and she has no job. Not sure what miracle she is expecting they're going to want to be paid. She is planning a wedding she can't afford. Your friend was already the a-hole when she used your mom's services and then went behind her back. Not the a-hole. I'd explain that to your friend group. Not the a-hole. Lucy is clearly a leech in this situation from what you've said. I would do everything possible to either immediately distance yourself or do it over time so it's one of those sadly we grew apart things. I'm not sure how many vendors/locations/services overlap, but I would call yours and tell them a bit about the situation. As someone suggested, she might try to mooch off you and tell the vendors you said it was okay to reuse certain items or ask for a discount because they'd already there. You can tell the people you hired that someone you thought was a friend changed their original wedding date to the day after yours, and you do not give permission for anything specifically for your wedding to be reused for theirs. The beauty of that is, you don't even have to say names. If she used the same people and were booked from June to September, they'll know instantly who it was. Or even if she decides to hire them now, that date and any money-saving request will raise red flags and help them avoid her if they want. I could be reading/imagining this wrong, but I think Lucy might be diva bridezilla, and no one wants to deal with that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting upset that something I had originally said is okay regarding my wedding? Hello. I was supposed to get married last year, but due to the obvious issue, it had to be cancelled and we moved it to this year. Finally, my area is doing well in terms of the virus. The cases are lower every day, the vaccination process is going well, and the regulations are relaxed, and everything is almost back to normal. I'm getting married in a month, and I couldn't be happier. I have a no-kids wedding, and I had notified everyone that it's a no-kids wedding, so they could tell me whether they'll be able to attend or not. I said it's fine if you can't find a babysitter for the day, and I won't judge if you can't afford to have a sitter or you can't find one and you won't be able to attend. I just said I'd like to be notified at least 2 weeks prior to the wedding, because that's when I'm gonna give the list of the guests to the venue. 4 of my friends and a cousin of mine called me earlier this week to tell me they won't be able to attend because they can't find or afford a babysitter. They wished me well on the wedding. I got very upset. They knew for an entire year that I was planning a no-kids wedding, and they couldn't figure something out, which tells me they don't actually care about me. The phone calls of the 4 friends were separate and happened in the span of 2 days, yet my cousin actually visited me to give me the wedding gift and tell me she won't be able to attend. My cousin was the last one to tell me, and I went off. I told her how I feel like my wedding is not important to them if they can't figure out how to leave their kids alone for 1 day. My cousin then said how I'm being unfair, because I had previously said it's fine if we can't attend because of the kids for whatever reason, and then I said that I'm being notified last minute. And she pulled the argument that they notified way before the 2 weeks notice before the wedding, and that they notified more than a month before it. I told my cousin to leave my house because I needed to think. I called my mom to ask for advice and also consulted my fiancé. But they both told me that I'm overreacting because the girls met my wishes and notified 1 month prior, and how I was the one that said it's not a problem if you can't attend because of the kids. I said I felt it was unfair that they'd put their kids above my wedding when it was just for 1 night. And my mom scolded me and said I'm being too entitled for expecting people to put their kids' needs or their financial issues aside because I'm getting married. And that my wedding might be the most important thing to me, but it's not the most important thing to everyone else. And if someone has to attend 10 weddings a year, it's natural they won't be able to meet the needs of every single one. So, am I the a-hole for getting upset at something I previously said I wouldn't mind? You are the a-hole because of this attitude. I said I felt it was unfair that they'd put their kids above my wedding. If there is someone out there that doesn't put their kids over your wedding, or any wedding, then they are crappy parents. I understand why you want a kid-free wedding, and that is your right. The other side of that coin is that some people with kids won't come to the wedding for lots of reasons involving their kids. That is their right. You ask for a notice, and they were polite enough to give it to you. That line takes her from a-hole to bridezilla. Why not both? You're the a-hole. You said it was okay and gave them a deadline, and now you went back on that. Childcare is hard to keep, and often people won't know for sure if they have it until a week or two before an event. You've given no reason why you aren't the a-hole here, and every reason that you are. But it's her wedding. How could they not drop everything to be there on her day? You're the a-hole. You gave a deadline. They followed it. An invitation is an invitation, not a summon. With the pandemic, people's lives have changed, particularly financially. And it's been really tough on kids. It might be harder to find a babysitter because of other people's lives changing. Maybe they are not comfortable going to a big wedding due to COVID, and are just trying to say it's because of a babysitter because you had said that initially. Also, maybe you're just a bridezilla in general, and they're using this because they don't want to go. That last reason. Why do I get the feeling that's likely the real reason? You're the a-hole. Don't plan a no-kids wedding, and then throw a tantrum because people with kids can't attend. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I want nothing to do with his secret second family? My 19 female dad, 50 male, has been having a long-term affair with a woman for over a decade. Their relationship began while he was married to my mom, and he stayed with her even while he dated and was engaged to a different woman after my parents' divorce. I don't think his latest ex ever knew about her, but I'm not sure. She has a kid, although it isn't his, which I do believe. I knew about his affair long ago, and after a big fight, basically said I never want to hear about her again or have anything to do with it, and then I'd be fine. This went okay for a decent amount of time. He would go on work trips and all, but I never asked questions and he never shared, and I was honestly fine being in the dark about it. I never approved, and he knew this, but I let him live his life so long as I was never brought into it. He tells me today he has invited them out to visit. I still live at home right now, and would love for me to be polite while they're here. I told him absolutely not, that I would go to a friend's house for the duration of their visit, but I would not be seeing them at all. That woman caused a lot of traumas during my childhood and aided in my parents' divorce, and I don't condone women who knowingly be the other woman. I never want to see her, and I made that clear. I said he can live his life as he wants, but I will not be dragged into that. He was pissed, went off on me saying it's his life, and I'm the child here, so his day is what goes. He ended by saying to lose his number, and honestly that would be fine with me if he would throw away his actual child for this other family. I wanted nothing to do with that. Am I the a-hole for telling him a hard pass and playing happy family with his affair family? Not the a-hole. You do not have to let this man have his cake and eat it too. It's about time there's consequences for his selfish choices. Did he actually say lose his number? Wow. He is so callous and selfish to easily discard his family as well. Cheats, then discards Opie. Yeah, Opie's father is a huge a-hole. I had narcissistic parents growing up and it was awful. Not the a-hole, Opie. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. Not the a-hole. I know he's your father, but honestly, do you really want this person in your life? This. I don't get why the other woman is persona non grata, but you're okay with dad. He's the one who broke marriage vows. I'm by no means okay with what my dad has done and is actively doing. He is my dad, and sadly that complicates things, and I didn't want to lose my remaining parent if I could help it. We have a very rocky relationship. That is at the forefront. As for the woman, I do blame her as well. She was a family friend and knew my dad was married and had kids when they got together. She caused a lot of issues during my parents' marriage, with sending taunting messages to my mom, which caused arguments that I ended up in the middle of as a child. My dad was the married man, but she wasn't an innocent that was kept in the dark about the situation. I guess it's just easier to be totally no contact with her since I have no emotional connection to her at all. Whereas it's harder with my dad because he and I do have that. Wow, your father is the massive a-hole. Not you. I'm 100% with you. That's awful. I wouldn't want to see her either. Ever. She destroyed your childhood. And your father is appalling too. And you have tried and been very reasonable overall, ignoring his work trips, etc. But this is too much. But it's his home. And yep, his life, so you have few options. I'd find a way to move out. Away from your father. It's disgraceful.